Hello, everybody, and welcome to another group stage cast of the SpyParty Winter Cup 2023. I am your host, one of your casters, and your tournament organizer, Opie Wrights. I'm here with my lovely co-caster, Scout.
Hello, hello.
And we have a couple very fun matches for you today. Our first one's going to be between some veterans of the game, while our second one, we're definitely going to have some newer players, but newer does not necessarily mean worse. And in particular, we have C. Rams in our second match, who's made a big name for himself over the first year that he's been in the community. So it's going to be very interesting to see what we have there. But first off, we are going to be starting with Nanthelas versus Slappydavis as our first match. And before we get into anything, we should probably go over the draft here. And the draft here, like all Winter Cups, is you have each player picking a venue set that is available, one of four, and each of these venue sets have 4 different venues in it. That would mean a whole 16 games, but you do have some bans. So both players will have 1 ban from either set, even the set that you picked. So let's get on with what's actually been done. First off, Slappydavis has picked Spin It, which includes Courtyard 3 of 7, Veranda 5 of 8, Library, and High Rise 4 of 8. And that all has, that's... you have to move your sniper camera around quite a bit, I feel like, on all of those. So there's your theme for that one. Then Nanthelas picks Now You See Me, Now You Don't, with Tayen, Courtyard 4 of 7, Redwoods, and Modern. We have Nanthelas then banning Redwoods from his own set, and Slappydavis banning Tayen. So this set should probably just be called Now You See Me.
That's one way to put it.
But that does mean that we are going to be starting out with Courtyard 3 of 7 here as the first venue in Spin It. Starting with Nanthelas. Let me pull that up for everyone. There we are. Scout, I am seeing Nanthelas on the spy side playing as Pearls right now. How about you?
I am seeing the same.
Lovely, lovely. In that case, we can get this moving in 3, 2, 1, playing it. And so in this matchup, we do actually have both courtyards, and they will come one after another. So the first courtyard will be this 3 of 7 variant with low time but high guests. Our second courtyard variant will be our 4 of 7, but with some changes. It's not the standard 4 of 7. It is also slightly lower time and significantly increased guests. So both of them, very different flavors of the same venue here.
As Nanthelas does finally get his first white flat. This is the main concern with the faster courtyard. It definitely punishes tardiness on flats, and a green flat probably would have helped a lot here. As we pick up a fingerprint off the drink, well, I think we're okay.
Yes, indeed. 32%, yeah. It's fine. It's not the best flirt, but you can get the 2 flirts out from here.
I think it's never a bad idea to time ad on courtyard, but at the moment with everyone in conversation, now would be a particularly bad time. But it remains an option for at some point in the next minute.
Particularly as this, setup, as we mentioned, has pretty low time, 30 seconds faster than your OG courtyard settings.
I have to say I'm interested in seeing how both Nanthelas and Slappy play. Nanthelas has been a little more active, but Slappy's last competitive event was SCL, so it's interesting to see how he's going to handle sniping and if it's going to be all that different from the newer players we'll see in the next match.
Yeah, that is something to note, that both of these players are very long-standing members of the community, Slappy in particular, although both of them have been around longer than I have, which at this point is a rather impressive feat, actually, which scares me a little bit. But
is an ancient one older than OP?
we do see our ST join with us. We are maybe in range for a bug here. We could go for it. At the very least, we could try for a walking bug, and that might be what we need to do. The thing is, we just don't have the ability right now. We're looking for this print, I think, and the ambassador does leave, allowing us to get this, but we need to be faster with this. We need to get the contact as well. So we're going to have to fingerprint the briefcase, then go in and contact, I assume with the briefcase, actually, because we're just kind of running out of time. No, Nanthelas going around. We might have to go for a bug. We're going to go for this contact bug while returning. And over time, Slappy shoots the wrong target.
To be honest, that bug was... Damon did... was not doing his job and was in fact obscuring most of that bug, given the rotation there.
Yeah, and I mean, Pearls does have a really good standing bug, but one thing to note here is that this is not how you're supposed to return a briefcase. You are meant to get behind the ambassador to return this. So lots of tells here that Nanthelas was the spy, but just going slightly unnoticed here, and as you mentioned, Damon, covering up that bug big time. And without the contact, Slappydavis was left a little unsuspecting there after those fingerprints. So Nanthelas starting off 1-0 to... sorry about that.
We've lost OP.
No, I'm here. Can you hear me, though? No. They can't hear me. 1 second. Hi, Scout, can you hear me?
Yes, I can now.
Lovely. Stream could hear me, but you couldn't. Yeah, so Nanthelas winning the spy side of Courtyard. Of course, it is definitely a bit harder for the sniper than your 4 of 7 Courtyard. So now Slappydavis on the spy side trying to bring it back, playing as Plain Twin here, with Blink Twin as the ambassador, an interesting choice. Maybe doesn't want to get a highlight for being a twin. And let's get it going in 3, 2, 1, playing it.
Of course, Blink Twin is the most stylish of ambassadors, so it kind of makes sense.
I think Slappydavis does just do full random ambassadors. Last I'm aware. Slappy is well known for being a rather slow spy that does still, despite that, manage to get to mission win countdown fairly frequently. It does often, however, take a lot of late game maneuvering. Here comes a contact. We're going to try to bug after this, but because it's a white contact, we might not be able to if our twin leaves. And we're getting credited with a real because of the SDA in our conversation. On the bright side, no lowlights.
I think you're going to take a perfect fake contact any day of the week, even if it ends up looking like it's real for us.
Yeah, I think that's pretty good. It does frame a lot of AIs. It would be preferable if that were actually fake for us. We would lose that suspicion. But it's such a good contact that you always want to take it no matter where you are.
It's also a little unfortunate that we were just out of range of a full green percentage, and so we're sadly sitting at 92% across conversation from our seduction target now.
Yeah, now that slow spy-ness of Slappydavis might be coming into play. We only have 1 minute and 20. That's how quickly the time can get away from you on this venue. We saw that be a slight problem with Nanthelas, although Nanthelas did get away with that game in the end. There's a fingerprint on drink, and you can see that Slappy does know about it. There was a slight, camera angle towards where Toby was offering to the ambassador. I'm interested that we're not trying to keep the double agent in conversation here. If I were Slappy, rather, I am me. I would probably join that conversation just to make sure the double agent doesn't bail on us and go to statues like this, making it impossible to get this contact. And now we are going into inspect, and this could look like a finish from Nanthelas' perspective, so I'm wondering if there will be a shot.
I think he will wait, because the DA was holding the second statue. We barely get that down just in time. That was very close.
Yeah, very close to a third cycle, but that path through conversation did not look very kosher at all. And now we have the final flirt. Double Agent might be coming to us, though. Is she going to save us here? It's going to be a double talk, small amount of the statues, with the only other highlight. Two other people at statues, but they've both been knocked out. Here comes the contact.
We're ignoring Toby!
No, he rejected finally, but the shot does come off in the end. I just think that there was no... There just wasn't anyone else for Nanthelas to shoot there, and we were talking during the contact. It was the second contact of the game, so the first one might have been fake. And it might be a little bit unfortunate even for Slappy, just based on the fact that not really any AIs went to statues except for at the end when they were knocked out by this contact.
Smallman went early, but then was back at statues late game and to be knocked out. And I think other than that, maybe one other AI. It was a bit of a quiet party, really.
Yeah, a bit unfortunate for us, Slappydavis there. We did get to mission 1 countdown, but it was, I think it, to make it clear, like, this contact inspect seduce is probably the most, straightforward finish on Courtyard 3 of 7, and so snipers do have to be consistently ready to shoot for that kind of thing, and we actually could have just died at the statues outright. However, in this case, Nanthelas does hold correctly, and then does not need... does manage to make the shot later on when we were actually in mission 1 countdown. So well done to Nanthelas. And now we are on to our second round of Courtyard. However, this time the Spy has a little bit more work to do. With Nanthelas needing 4 missions instead of the 3. We have 15 extra seconds, but we have 18 guests in this party. That's going to be a lot of guests for the sniper to keep track of, even though we do have a big, nice advantage with the high sniper angle here to see a lot of things.
All right. We have Nanthelas as Irish.
Yep, I have the same thing, and let's get moving in 3, 2, 1, playing it.
This is quite a long amount of AI control for a more veteran player. I guess we just wanted to be sure of our safe bounces around Amber early on.
Yeah, I don't think it's something that you have to worry about necessarily too much against someone like Slappydavis. A lot of the pathing snipers are either just Urand or a lot of the more newer top level of players. I say newer because they're not even that new these days, but compared to these players, indeed much newer.
And I do think it's interesting to compare the older style of pathing sniper to the newer style. I think the newer style is much more pathing rather than bouncing or redirect based.
I mean, definitely some amount of bouncing and redirects. Here, an interesting time ad. It's going to be a white test. Does Slappy notice? Doesn't seem like it so far. No reaction, still highlighting people at statues. So Nanthelas seems to get away with a time ad, and that feels pretty big on a venue with 18 guests. And so much to keep track of. That can become a problem for the sniper as the game moves forward and more AIs, for example, go to statues. A lot more suspects that could be imminently finishing.
It is still easier for the sniper because some hardtail is going to have to happen at some point, but the more statue inspectors you have to watch for a possible hardtail, the easier it is to miss.
Yeah, and you can see that as the number of highlights starts to increase dramatically over the course of this game. Every time a new AI steps into those statues, another one up on the board, and we currently have 5, and that is really close to being on like half the party that's potential suspects here.
We've requested a drink, and I have slight concerns that we're going to do a white purloin on camera.
It's a green purloin instead, however. Maybe, given Nanthelas' slow-ish spy here. Oh, look at that! Another reject. That's huge. I think the request might have been intentional to frame someone. I'm not certain who, but we can go back and look, especially if someone gets shot. Here comes the take. It's green fade on screen. Slappy notices. So we do have the correct fade seen from Slappy. However, does he have the purloin tracked? Slow reactions here out of Slappydavis. We're done with statues, but we haven't been highlight for them. Okay, there it is. There's I think the late highlight for being at statues, or potentially for the purloin. It didn't seem like we were off screen a lot for that statue visit, and Slappy was busy dealing with the purloin. So contact here would be a very, I mean, it's what you should be doing, contacting. It all comes down to whether or not Slappy's tracked this well enough. Oh, and look at that queen. One of the rejectors joins and immediately talks, and then just green contact for queen. And Slappy, understandably, taking that shot. Look at that.
I think that is... I really like the play of Nanthelas of doing the green pearl line before the inspects. It's so much more like... I mean, Queen had already done her inspects when the reject happened, and so it just looks so much more like a spy than banking everything. Because if we hit a white there, we've got a drink to get rid of. It's so much harder to finish.
You think? I mean, I feel like spies like to do things before they're highlight.
I feel like people like to postpone the imminent moment of death of possibly hitting a white pearl line on courtyard.
I mean, sure, that's true. Though, I mean, it comes down to the emotional reaction to getting shot. I think a lot of the time. So, but I think with players this experienced, they're not that worried about it, and I would expect people to be doing purloin before statues more often. However, in this case, this is just ends up being the perfect frame, right? You look at this, you see queen rejects, it's a green purloin. Slappy has clearly seen that queen rejected. We go into this, you know, and she just joins our conversation and insta-talks, and we get the green contact. And what do you expect Slappydavis to do? I think a lot of players are just going to shoot that. What a nice game by Nanthelas. Helped out a little bit by Queen as the AI there, but making full use of the good fortune coming his way. Now Slappydavis in a bit of a hole to start with. Does need to find any way onto the board, and starting out on Courtyard Spy, it becomes a little bit difficult, but we have seen two Courtyard Spy wins already. So we'll see if Slappy can do it. Playing as Pearls here, we have another Pearls game pretty quickly. In 3, 2, 1, playing it.
Well, it worked for Nanthelas, so hopefully it'll work for Slappy.
Well, we do have our ST join us, 34% unfortunately, but we are going to bail on it, which I do agree with. You want to have a bit of a faster pacing, and there's basically no downside to this, because the snipers on the other side of the venue, watching the ambassador, watching statue visitors early on, watching everything else, not just a singular cheese flirt. Especially out of Slappydavis, I feel like some people have a reputation for cheese flirting, myself included, and so might get caught on that more often. But if you don't have a reputation for it, doing it can be very strong to increase your pacing. And look at this, we're probably going to have flirt finished within 45 seconds or so here of the game starting, which just frees us up so much to look for the best possible execution of our further missions. Now Slappy on the move, look at this, wasting no time.
Yeah, Slappy is definitely schmooving, and especially with this rush of statue inspectors, getting in on that is not too bad.
What do you think about an attempt at a green swap here, and then go contact and just say you need to shoot me at like 1:30 left on the clock?
I think that's an excellent plan if you have an OP green rate. If you have a normal human green rate, I think that feels a little bit worse.
It is still courtyard. You need to find something to do. Which might be fingerprints at this point. We did just see the ambassador take a drink, and we are going to get the fingerprint off of the drink. This would be a little bit brazen, though, if we went for the briefcase as well. Instead, just the drink, because Wheels is taking that briefcase. However, it does leave us an option to go for that full Softail game.
The one issue here is that we've got a minute. The briefcase has just been returned to the ambassador, and we can't always rely on the ambassador putting down a case and then leaving it in time for us to collect that print before the end of the game.
Yes, I mean, so this is where the question comes in. Does having more guests make fingerprint weaker on courtyard, or does it make it stronger?
Banana bread.
Because you know your fingerprints are gonna be less often concentrated onto one AI, right? We do.
Oh no! And here comes Wheels. Wheels is taking our fingerprint again.
Wheels. I mean, maybe we're just hoping Wheels get shot at this point, having 2 fingerprints. What if Wheels just goes to statues right now?
He hasn't got a real contact, but Nanthelas might not have tracked this exactly.
We might
Oh,
need to go for a bug, but the ambassador is on the move. We could get lucky here. However, he's gonna be at windows, so we do have the opportunity. He is gonna be forced to move away from windows eventually. We set up next to him. There is gonna be an overtime no matter what we do. It's actually gonna be a white. No, never mind. I stand corrected. There is a white test time ad at the window here, and that's going to prevent overtime. I think that's actually a really smart decision out of Slappydavis. You actually don't want a green time ad there, and you don't want to go to overtime.
But how are we not dead? We did a white time ad and beep beeps. But we did a white time ad and beep beeps in front of the sniper.
I mean, Sniper was definitely looking at other things, and while we did get a lot of lowlights out of it, Sniper was not 100% sure that we were the one who time added. Of course, we were at windows. We definitely could have done it. And I think that, on another day, Nanthelas might find that shot. But the big important thing to take away from this is that Slappy was gunning to prevent overtime. Overtime is terrible for the spy, because then the sniper knows that you are done with missions and they need to shoot someone, and someone carrying the briefcase to Ambassador who has inspects, that's a good shot. This adds just enough uncertainty with this time ad that Nanthelas doesn't shoot it every time. I think sometimes he does, but not this time, and Slappydavis gets away with a nice win. Very, very intelligently going for that white time ad, I think.
It's a nice play, and I think, something spicy, something we don't see every day. And we very much needed that win to get on the scoreboard at this point.
Yeah, it would have been. It always feels bad to be down 4-0 to start, knowing that you have to do so much work to get back in it. 3-1, totally manageable. Okay, but now we are onto Veranda. Some big venue play here. Nanthelas on the spy side playing as Kane here.
Gaming.
In 3, 2, 1, play it.
And we're heading just for the ST, the traditional start. And the cheese flat.
Ooh, but I think that was caught. Look at that. Either that, or it's just getting the highlight for statues off early, as Slappydavis saw that. But we were being focused on for that highlight for so long before he hit the statues right there. So I think that might have actually been caught as a cheese flat.
That feels bad for Nanthelas. I think. And especially now we're coming straight back to our ST. This feels like we're going to have to be very sneaky to get something past Slappy to win, and ideally 2 things past Slappy, because depending on how certain the sniper is, they might just be willing to credit 1 mission.
Yeah, that is the difficulty with Veranda. You need so much mission progress. So, although with where the Ambassador is and how crowded this area is, I wouldn't even hate like a microfilm, like an animation microfilm like green, or even a direct to red potentially. The Ambassador coming near us doesn't really help that option, unfortunately. So I think, yeah, Nanthelas just making the decision to put that back. Although, given how much movement and just cover there was, I think it still could have been good, even with the Ambassador moving nearby.
I think it could have been alright. I still got the feeling from Slappy's laser that he was on the lookout for anything.
Well, you gotta be on the lookout for a lot of things as a sniper, and a lot of things are happening. I can't imagine that we are being tunneled right now. That would be surprising to me, even if the cheese flirt was noticed at the start of the game.
And we are starting to get a larger number of highlights as well. We're now part of a bit more of a group.
Difficult fingerprint off the book, unfortunately, does not take. So Nanthelas maybe starting to feel time pressure now after that miss. That was a very important aspect of finishing, because there would have been a printable statue, and that can be up to 3 missions at once if you have partial inspects, partial print already.
Instead, we're just going to be at windows. I feel like this is a point where we could time add, but Nanthelas is just going to do an ordinary watch check.
Yeah, we are way out at the front, and not many people are actually doing things. They've settled into conversation pretty heavily. The Ambassador was moving through them, so we maybe could have used that as cover, but it is difficult to say with any certainty where the sniper is paying attention to, and when you're right out in front, it's pretty easy to see you, and if they notice a time ad, well, you're on the list.
I feel like having a minute 30 to do 3.5 missions is also
This could
somewhat
be a
on the
bug.
list.
No, not quite. I think maybe
I
Nanthelas was going for a double walking bug there as we leave the conversation, but the ambassador did bounce, which made it something that just didn't seem to work out. And now timing is gonna be difficult. Ambassador, we need to get this bug. We need to try this bug anyway. I think that we had to go for that. We don't have the time to wait for the ambassador to come back the other direction. But here comes.
We don't have time to do much at all. Even if we speedrun this, it's going to be a bit of a difficulty. Oh
Red
no.
test purloin here. Slappy is going to see that. Is he going to see the blinking?
I don't think the blinking was actually really visible from that angle.
It was very slightly visible, but you might interpret that as a green test purloin if you're not certain. However, the shot does indeed come off briefly after the take. I think we might be right about the fact that we were seen with this cheese flirt, because look at this already. Like look at when Slappy actually does this highlight. We're already being pointed at before we ever get to statues.
Yeah, a little bit of a rough catch right at the start of the game for Nanthelas, and then sort of the Walking Dead.
Yeah, and now we do have Slappydavis potentially going to get back into this one with a red dress here. If you can win a spy game on Veranda, it is a difficult task, but it's been done before. In 3, 2, 1, playing it.
And I foresee, look at that. It's much easier to do when you have 45 extra seconds to do an extra mission.
Yeah, that's true. We are getting a highlight for statue visit, of course. I gotta say, I have to advise against going to early statues against people who are highlighting for statues. Unless, if Salmon doesn't get highlight here. If Salmon doesn't get... I'm concerned. Salmon's not picking up a highlight for these statues. So that indicates that this might actually be... Never mind. I was starting to get it in my head that maybe Nanthelas was highlighting for the time ad. But instead it is indeed still 4 statues, as I imagine Smallman and Alice will both pick up some inspects here and some highlights as well. But yes, early inspect against someone who's going to be highlighting for inspects does not feel very good almost ever. Just because you don't like it's not.
It's
fun.
fine. We're already 1 of 4 highlights. We just we're gonna get our progress on flirt and our other soft tells, and then by the time we need to do another hard tell, there'll be plenty of highlights in the party. It'll work out fine.
That's what you would hope, but again, you would prefer to not be highlight either way, and we don't get a mission for it. We get half a mission. Basically, some.
We get the second half of the mission for free, at least.
Free, quote unquote.
Sadly, we don't hit the second green flirt, which would have helped immensely with pacing.
Free.
Oh yes, well we have the inspect police here, who disapproves of them at all times.
I don't disapprove of them at all times. Just this early for a highlight. But regardless, Slappy does need to start getting to things, even with that time ad early on. 3 minutes, plenty of time. But this is like a useless conversation. I think he might be.
Are we just lining up for a bug?
I think we're aiming for a print. Not a bug, but be proven wrong. I would love to see a bug out of Slappydavis here. Does watch the ambassador as Tex paths through this area. Doesn't go for any kind of bug, however. It'll be interesting to see what comes next, though. We do need to go to that green bookshelf relatively soon. We don't want to let anyone beat us there. General going into statue. Slappydavis checking to make sure that wasn't a change. We're requesting a drink. Could this be a purloin? Oh, it's a fake contact into a purloin, potentially. It's white test, though. Oh, no. We really want that to be a green test. We're going to go to green books and gulp, looking for the print. Lots of things happening at once here.
I think we might have gotten away with that gulp. I think we might have gotten that down before Nanthelas realized the purloin had happened and was checking who had drinks.
I agree. I think that we got away with that. However, I'm pretty sure Nanthelas is aware of the possibility that we got this. Okay, now we do a fake contact. We go for a bug afterwards. This is a lot of using contact as a distraction, and it's working really well for Slappydavis right now, but we still are that highlight. And we're looking for one more set of inspects, one more fingerprint, but we do have our hard tells done. and that's huge. If and Nanthelas needs to shoot for just some soft tails at this point.
The difficulty is where we're going to find our second fingerprint. We've got our one on the book. We're going to have to spend some time putting this book back. No chance of a transfer, given that we were seen at books pretty clearly after the Purloin when Nanthelas was busy checking where everyone was.
And unfortunately, Ambassador is holding a book right now, holding another green book. So I think we might be waiting for the Ambassador to get pushed back to green bookshelves, and in the meantime, we want to get a statue. But Slappydavis, I don't think, realized that there's going to be another print on green books very, very soon. That's what happens when the Ambassador loses patience while holding a book. He will immediately, if you excuse my terminology, book it back to the bookshelves. And
oh no,
and put it and slip it back, but Slappydavis wasn't ready for that. Wait, we can still do contact.
Yeah, okay, we did two fakes. We still got real as an option.
We can still do contact. So
this banana bread is somewhat painful.
Yeah, but like we should already be essentially credited with having real, right? This is not really a shot. I stand corrected. I was going to say this is not really something that would prompt a shot, at least not onto us, because there have been 2 fakes already. So it's a pretty safe option to complete. And it did indeed end up working out for Slappydavis. Nanthelas shooting Smallman in the waning seconds of this game. Now we're all tied up again. We went 3-0 Nanthelas, and then Slappydavis came roaring back. It's now 3-3.
Not bad, given the slight rough start.
Indeed. What a nice one from Slappydavis, especially winning a game on Veranda. And I think that, to go in a little bit into the fact that we saw multiple contact distraction plays, I feel like those are less common these days, because spies are a lot more kind of acutely aware of the cost of contact of all these lowlights, whereas it used to be a much more common play, especially with Purloin. It used to be a very common thing where you could actually hear 2 contacts in a row because of action priorities with Purloin, and you could very reliably highlight the person who Toby was behind. But nowadays,
I also think it's a slight meta shift. That it became so popular to do a contact into another mission that snipers just clamped down on it so hard it became less worthwhile.
Yeah, that's definitely true. There's a lot to reason about why that the contact distract has become less and less popular, but it's still viable, absolutely, as we see in that game. Very well done from Slappydavis. None of the typical Slappydavis slowness that he's well known for in this one. But now we are on to Modern, one of those bigger venues, but it's 4 of 8. So spies do have quite a few options here, and we do have Nanthelas playing as the one that blends in the best on Salmon. And 3, 2, 1, playing it.
I do wonder why, our wood is basically pink. But,
It can be painted.
It doesn't look like it's painted. You've got different boards of different colors. That doesn't happen when it's painted. Anyway, Nanthelas has gotten a book out of...
It might be the lighting.
Maybe. Nanthelas has gotten the book out of the bookcase, which we don't blend into, which maybe the hope is we can put it back into the bookcase we blend into, and then the sniper won't notice.
I feel like the timing of the removal of the book here. Pretty early on into the game, the sniper has a lot of other things to do memory stuff with. Multiple people at bar, a couple people at statues here. So the early book take for me feels like that could go back into green and go unnoticed.
Which is interesting, because I feel like it's such a cliche for spies to get a book early on, and it was just so wide open with us in the middle of the venue there at bookcases. So I guess we've got different predictions going on as to how it will go if we put this book back in the wrong bookcase.
Well, the sniper can always be on top of it. We definitely see times where the sniper just immediately shoots as soon as it goes back into the wrong bookshelf, and have that memorized. But it's all about playing those odds a little bit when you're the spy. You're trying to remove the book at a time when you think they're unlikely to remember. or you're trying to put it back when you might think maybe they won't notice because they're watching Bug, for example, and I think Nanthelas chose a pretty decent time for it.
Well, getting our flirt up to 83% is pretty good. Already, though, we're down to 230, and Moderna's a big venue to traverse and get missions done in.
That's true. We are going to put this back into the wrong bookshelf here. Do we get noticed doing this? Interesting that Nanthelas chose the red bookshelf. Usually you see a lot of blue to green and green to blue. We also put that back pretty quickly. That was not long enough in terms of the cycles necessary, but you know, if your sniper isn't like, if your sniper is not going to punish you for it, you might as well put it back relatively quickly.
Also, of course, we went to the red bookcase because that's the one we're camoed at.
We're not camoed that strongly. We're definitely still visible, but we do get away with the microfilm either way. It seems like Slappydavis was not on top of that where the book was coming from, and indeed didn't even really seem to note us putting it back. You know, a lot of snipers will realize, oh, I don't know where that book is from, and highlight for it. But in this case, Slappy just we seem to be completely under Slappy's radar even. Some opportunity for a bug there that we could have taken, but we do not. Instead, we might try to gulp this drink. Nope, just a sip. To make our hands free for a bug potentially after the ambassador moves, but I don't think it's necessary. We may just end up doing a contact into a delegate. Oh wait, no. Did we delegate to text there?
Yeah, we did the classic delegate and leave at the same time.
Yeah, we delegated to text. Text is taking a drink. No. Okay, we were briefly low lit, briefly high lit, and now we're back to neutral suspicion.
This is
And we're getting a lot of lowlights here from Slappy. The thing is, a contact may get a shot because we're the only non-lowlight in with an SDA right now. So a contact could very well get a shot in the waning seconds of this game, which would be brutal for Nanthelas after getting away completely with a microfilm, just because Slappydavis is tracking this correctly, and there's a bit of unfortunate, you know...
Everyone who's not a lowlight is currently out of conversation, and we've got 20 seconds to go.
We need someone to join a conversation so we can have some cover for this contact right at the end of the game, but there's none.
No!
Everyone's out! But does Slappy realize? I think he does! And Nanthelas gets shot because was the only non-lowlight in conversation.
I think that's possibly one of the most painful end games I've watched.
I have to say, I feel like that's very unfortunate for Nanthelas. Now, I will say, very well done for Slappy to have that, you know, that purloin narrowed down so well, such that this was even a possibility, right? If Slappy wasn't aware of who could have done this purloin and been so confident about the lowlights, you might not even get this shot in the end game because you're thinking, maybe it could be someone else and I don't have the mission count. But Slappy, confident about it, and gets a bit lucky, certainly. But you have to put yourself in that position to be able to get lucky in the first place, and Slappy did that very well. So after going down 0-3, Slappydavis now in the lead very briefly. Potentially, I mean, we might see the lead like confirmed by a spy win here. It'd be very interesting to see a 5-0 run from Slappy if that's what's going to happen here. We do have Rocker on the spy side for Slappydavis, starting at this green bookshelf. Unfortunately, also starting with a drink, so we don't have the ability to go for the full book cheese immediately as the game starts. But let's see what happens in 3, 2, 1, playing it.
I was trying to think of a pun for Rocket, but possibly, thankfully, I can't do puns.
It is probably better a mark of good character that you can't pun very well. Ooh, I like this microfilm. It might be white, but we are covered by Sieg, who is pretty big, and there's a lot of things that are pulling the sniper's attention both to the left and to the right of us. So we actually end up in this kind of nascent middle ground where their eyes are kind of moving over us. So despite the white test, we do end up getting away with this microfilm relatively clean, it would seem. And now we're going to pick up a really early delegate as well as that 85% flirt to Slappy, bucking a lot of trends with his play here, moving quickly.
I definitely like it helped that our ST went from mission site to mission site, so we could chase get half a mission done and most of our flirt. Waiting here in this conversation so that we can see where our ST goes and who's not really cooperating.
Yeah, I will be interested to see if we decide to go for an actual delegate here, because this would be a very fast game if we did. We could delegate to Twin, take a contact, or, you know, do it in the reverse order so Twin's still a possibility, and then go straight into books and try to finish that. Instead, Ambassador, pretty close, but not close enough for a standing bug. We would have to do a walking bug out of this conversation, but Nanthelas' angle is bad for it. We could have tried that if we did a wrong arm out of conversation there. But instead, we have just gulped. We've been actually left pretty alone in this conversation. Maybe we smell.
Well, looks like now's the time to finish off this microfilm.
This is well timed, given the fact that lots of people are in this conversation directly in front of the green. And it's a fingerprintable book as well. This looks like this is going to be where Slappy is going to try to finish these missions. And this game is
We're just entirely covered here.
This game looks amazing from Slappydavis so far. We seem to be having this completely covered. We like, look at this. Ambassador's putting it down a print right now and leaving it. We're actually going to just bail and go straight for this briefcase, even though there's definitely not something that is legal to do. But the double agent joins us. No, never mind.
No! No!
Double agent's not
That's
actually
so
in this
bad!
conversation. There are no real contacts. Does Nanthelas realize that there's no real context for this?
And that was so many low lines.
I think we're still in a pretty okay spot, because we still can get contact. But
we still have to find a print though.
We still have to find a print, but that's not going to be too uncommon with 1 minute 20 on the clock. We only need the one more flirt. We only need to get contact, but Slappydavis does have to start moving, I think. Try to get the actual contact here. Go get our last flirt, and then we're just gunning for that one print. We are going to pick up both in this conversation here. Here comes the flirt. Done with the flirt. Please get this contact off. There's going to be a print on green books again soon, unless the Ambassador just takes it out, in which case there'd just still be a briefcase on the ground, actually. So lots of options for print. There's almost guaranteed to be something. Oh, wait, never mind. The briefcase isn't with them. Some other AI is holding it right now, so that means there's no fresh print on this briefcase. We are looking for the Ambassador to put it back, but it's been too long. The Ambassador can't take it away anymore after that many cycles, so Slappydavis guaranteed this print. We're not going to go for this bug quite shortly, because that would be a little bit silly. We just need the print to be done, and while Nanthelas is looking for that bug, that might help us, because there is no bug.
Well, now's the time of truth. It doesn't look like we're gonna suffer for this at all.
Wow, Slappydavis, despite a little bit of mishap in the middle there, that was really impressive.
I think the very well executed microfilm just carried us there. You know, even if Nanthelas was totally on top of the prince, you still need one more mission.
Yeah, and we were barely even seen at the green bookshelves the first time in the first place, which is where we did get our first fingerprint, remember. We were behind this conversation entirely. We weren't even looked at for the potential microfilm, which we did eventually do. And when we get a print off of that kind of scenario, you might think that, you know, your print's pretty clean as well as the microfilm. So that just was a very, very remarkably clean. I mean, I don't want to say remarkably clean game from Slappydavis, but Slappydavis does tend to, you know, come down to these final few seconds needing a lot to do, and Slappy is very good at getting out of those situations. But this just feels a lot better when we just need like that one print in the last 30 seconds into 2-3 missions. So Slappydavis on a roll.
Continuing not dropping a game for 5 in a row.
Yeah, now, like, we were talking about how if you don't win when you're down, 0-3, you start to feel pretty bad. But how do you feel about Nanthelas when you started the set so well and then bam, Slappydavis pummels you for the next 5 games in a row? That's got to be a bit demoralizing, but you always have that chance to come back. It is a bit difficult, though, on the spy side of Library here, with Nanthelas playing as Alice. In 3, 2, 1, playing it.
Definitely spy side of Library, not the easiest place to get a win. But there's chances.
We have seen spy wins on Veranda and Modern, both of these big venues. So But however, both of them have been out of Slappydavis, so Nanthelas still needs to find his footing, I think, here on this bigger venue type.
We've already lost our first few seconds due to Wheels dumping us while we were in the middle of our action test to get our first foot. And again, Wheels just does not like us.
So Nanthelas, again, kind of bailing out and just like thinking I need some kind of progress, but this isn't, especially when you can go to center inspection and get it all done at once. This isn't real progress.
I think we forgot we weren't at center inspects. Slappy?
Does Slappy notice? Did we just get shot? I think Slappy is like looking at that statue like, was it just a white swap? Like, I think what's going through Slappy's head right now is who was there before, if anyone. Was there anyone there before? Because that's a big question, right? Because sometimes you're thinking, because are you certain there was no one before? Because you might have either missed someone or forgotten them, and that's what's causing this uncertainty, but we are most definitely a pretty big suspect.
I'm trying to figure out whether this is Slappy doing the world's biggest double take, or if this is just not being noticed and this is just normal sniping.
I feel like there was a lot of lingering in a place that doesn't have much to see for...
It's got the ambassador in it.
I mean, yeah, but the ambassador has very little danger. Now it's slightly more danger, but we do see one low light come out.
I think that was just because there was some sick bouncing around the ambassador.
Quite possibly, yeah.
On the other hand, Nanthelas is going to start to have doing some more missions if we want to finish.
Yeah, Nanthelas... I mean, it's so hard when you feel like you're such a big suspect at this point in the game, right? Nanthelas...
The other question is, do we think this was a misclick swap or not?
It might have been. Or it might have just been an attempt at a green and, like, maybe a rush.
Well, we're completing statues, and we're not dead. On the other hand, Slappy has quite a big margin of error, given that we have to complete 5 missions and he's seen 1. Well, presumably. We think he's seen 1.
It's definitely possible that Slappy either doesn't know and just kind of hasn't realized, or has mismemorized or convinced himself he mismemorized, that kind of thing. It happens all the time. I've done it before. It's
well, I mean,
really silly.
How many spies go out and swap in the first minute of library?
Right, exactly. Like that's part of what causes that doubt. There's a lot of doubt to be had on the sniper side when you're trying to do things accurately. You have to be really, really sure of yourself in a lot of cases. And sometimes...
But we do have now only a minute 20 to finish this.
We're going to go for a bug here, perhaps? Slappy's really watching that. Okay, I think we're definitely a big suspect for the swap. Or at the very least, because we've got full inspects. We did not go for the bug there. Taft was a little bit too fast for us, I think. Fastest character in the game, of course. And we still need missions.
And now what's the plan? Is the plan a timeout, or...?
We need something. Purloin probably has to be involved. I mean, like, contact is still available as an option. So maybe contact bug could be contact crash bug.
Well, DA is coming the right way.
Oh, this is a bug. Into the cover. Slappy! Did Slappy not see that?
It's off screen! It's off screen, and now we're contacting, and...
Slappy, no way! He's got to shoot. Yes, he does.
Well, that seemed like it ended up closer than it needed to be.
Yeah, I mean, I think Slappy was aware this could have been a bug. It was kind of all inside of Taft there, just in his body, because, you know, there is no collision. Well, there's a little bit of collision between characters, but you can definitely do animations inside of Taft here. And after everything is said and done, Slappy knows who to shoot and manages to...
I like the wee laser loop-de-loop before we take the shot as well.
6 games in a row, and Slappy secures a draw.
Well, that's a bit of a comeback.
Man, I mean, I just feel like Slappy's been playing really good spy side. Like, significantly upgraded from kind of how I think of Slappy's spy as just a bit too slow. right?
Maybe Slappy decided to 3x the slow cast, and that just fixed it.
just watch it on 4x speed. It's fine.
Yeah, easy.
Now Slappydavis, with the draw secured, going into the spy set of library, can he do it again? We've had a lot of strong spy games in a row, but library again, kind of difficult. But we saw it on veranda, we saw it on modern, and we saw it on courtyard. So Slappydavis on teal in 3, 2, 1, playing it.
Starting off next to Amber, but it doesn't work out. And instead, we're just you know, playing follow the ST.
Yeah, that's a pretty common start to the game. Unfortunately, the ST goes somewhere we can't really follow.
I mean, we could, but it would be a bad idea.
It would look pretty awkward, and we would actually have to get to the statue first, because they have a drink in hand, we don't. So we couldn't just, like, flirt then leave. It's pad a little bit, but it was completely off screen, so no problems here. We do have an early time added once again from Slappydavis. 2 even. Another green test. Do you want to go for another one? No.
I feel like 2 is a reasonable amount.
Podnoob would say if you get away with 2, you get away with 3. But Podnoob would also say if you get away with 1, you can get away with 2.
And if you can get away with 3, you can get away with 4.
You know, why not just do in as many time adds as possible?
Well, 5 minutes 15 is quite a comfy amount of time to play library. On the other hand, we still haven't done any actual missions.
That's fine, I think, especially when you're on match point here, like you are with Slappydavis. You just want to force Nanthelas, you know, a Nanthelas feeling like, you know, just about to potentially lose this match after going up 3-0 and then maybe losing 7 in a row. And you have to then play this long library game where the party doesn't get very narrowed. We have one low light, and I don't think Slappydavis is anywhere near wanting to do a contact right now. Although, of course, we did see some fakes for distraction on veranda.
Well, we've got a flirt. We're now back to ordinary library time, and basically all we have is 24% flirt. I think the main advantage that we have here is that we've got 4 highlights who have all done statues.
Yes, and we will continue to get more, I imagine, as time ticks down. You can see that we're only just below starting time on the clock now.
Making it up to 60% definitely makes us more comfy. If we can hit a green somewhere closer, we'll be fine.
I don't know about you, Scout, but 30 seconds into the game, I'm fine with 60% flirt and nothing else. Except for not.
I guess that's not too bad.
Except for not 30 seconds into the game, not for the sniper anyway.
Yeah, I mean, sniping library at the best of times is hard.
I saw a little bit of a frustrated camera shake from Nanthelas there.
Maybe he just realized that the timer is longer than it ought to be.
I'm not sure I love this decision there from Slappydavis. It is fingerprintable statue, so I understand the impulse. It's a lot of mission progress all at once. However, I think the goal of these time adds was to get other people to become big suspects, and then use that attention cover to get things done. We do finish our flirt though, and immediately split, so that's cool.
I mean, we did only one cycle that center statue, which is a little bit less spy-like, but I think it just wasn't noticed as a less spy-like play.
Oh no!
Oh no! No! Slappy!
That was completely on screen, but Nanthelas doesn't seem to have taken it in.
I think we're dead. I think Nanthelas knows.
It's possible. We are being watched pretty heavily for swap, unfortunately.
Well, we're still alive so far, but the plan to get other people to be suspicious is not quite working out.
I'm gonna go for a bug here. Oh,
it's the pillar bug.
I like the attempt from Slappydavis, but this is just not something that works when you're this big of a suspect. Even if we're just not a highlight, this looks a lot better. Of course, we also didn't quite stop in the correct place for this to work. Again, I like the idea, but Nanthelas is unfortunately for Slappy all over it and stops the warpath finally.
And now I think it's going to be a bit more interesting. I think Pub 3 of 7 is a somewhat volatile venue for Slappy to try and close this out.
Yeah, Nanthelas could absolutely find a draw here.
It's hard to snipe this, 3 of 7 missions, and it's hard to get everything done in time. So I think this is definitely going to be a bit of a challenge.
We shall see, and Nanthelas on the spy side does need this game to compete for the draw in the first place on Plane Twin. And 3, 2, 1, playing it.
I'm still sad for Slappy missing that pad.
Yeah, I think that really made things a lot more difficult than they needed to be, unfortunately for Slappy. However, we do have Pub still, and, if you had to choose, you'd prefer to be Slappydavis right now, of course.
Well, now that we're starting off with the first of the non-cast delegates, and also a print.
Yeah, very early print on this bar from the Ambassador. Might be helpful.
Having an entire 2 minutes to get our second print feels quite nice. And I'm not even sure if Slappy will track this print perfectly. There's a big mass of people at bar, and it can sometimes be easy to not notice that Amber was in fact there so early.
That's true. That is something to keep in mind. Potentially this print is unnoticed. I think it's slightly more likely that it is, but there is that chance, and that would be huge for Nanthelas.
This white test is going to make things a little bit tighter on timing.
Yeah, 1:30 on the clock, and you only have the 34% flirt now, so you can't really just stand here and try to do the timer flirt. I think you can do one more as long as you contact while you're doing it, but
this contact isn't looking great though.
It looks a lot better from Nanthelas' perspective when you don't know where the SDA is, because there's a big conversation over there with a lot of people in it, but it's just our conversation that has an SDA from the sniper side.
And the Amber is not leaving that briefcase. I think that's the only other print that's gone down since, and he's not moving.
Okay, just under a minute left in the clock here. We do need to do this contact. Here it is from Nanthelas. It's going to look better than it could have been earlier, but it's going to let off a few of the lights. Irish bails on us, unfortunately, as that happens. Nanthelas going to go straight for this briefcase as the Ambassador leaves it behind. Doesn't want to risk anyone else stealing it. Picks it up. If we had 2 green flirts, this would be mission win countdown, but we don't, so 30 seconds left to find a flirt. No shot seemingly incoming from Slappydavis. I think you're right. I think that early print off of bar might not have been noticed. We are going to step in next to our ST really close here. Flirt. Doesn't matter if it's a white test or a green test. Here it comes. Mission win countdown. I don't think Slappy's going to shoot this, and this is heading potentially towards a draw.
I think that was just very nicely done from Nanthelas, especially knowing that he had to immediately motor over and get that briefcase. If we paused too long, I mean, we had, it was getting tight by the end where we needed to finish up flirt. If we had waited a little bit longer for that briefcase, A, we could have missed out on it, and B, it would have made that end game significantly more difficult.
Now, if you're paying attention to Nanthelas' entire path here, you'll realize that this is actually an illegal briefcase. And the reason is that we start our path way too early for this briefcase to be valid, because the Ambassador is just too close to it. But you have to watch the entire path, and if you're Slappydavis, you're probably not doing that. You're probably just thinking, the Ambassador left, then, this twin came up here and looked for the briefcase, because Teal was about to do the same thing, but she got redirected off of it. You're not exactly noticing exactly when that path began, because that's when they decided to go for the briefcase as an AI. And an AI could not have done that. It's a very, very slight distinction that some players, some pathing snipers might get and might understand, but if you're not paying particular attention to it, you won't, and Slappydavis not on top of the prints, and does actually need that last spy game to win the set now.
Well, we're busting out the best bug in the game to try and get us there.
All right. Slappydavis on the spy side in 3, 2, 1, playing it. Can Nanthelas bring this back after being steamrolled by Slappydavis, and honestly a really quite incredible spy performance for 6 games in a row? Bringing this back to a draw would be very impressive.
Well, This first flirt is looking painful. 28% is not what you want to see on a short timer pub, and especially when we're not exactly the fastest character to go chasing RST later on in the game.
That is correct. 28% does not feel very good on this short of a time frame. You were absolutely right about that, Scout. So, what do you do when you see that 28% as Slappydavis? Do you try to bail out of here, or do you try to go for this timer flirt that apparently Slappydavis is going for?
I mean, personally, I would bail out of here and time ad, but I mean, the other thing I've noticed with Slappy is that he's been quite respectful with his conversation positioning as regards flirt. He's often taken the slightly bigger spacing to look less suspicious, but it's been knocking on to our flirt percentages. Looks like we're going for the chase, though. Are we going to go any closer this time?
Not this time. We may have been banking on a green test, but in fact, I think, given how quickly she left after our flirt, the fact that we didn't go closer is a blessing because we would have been bailed on. Oh, but we can't look for a contact yet. We need to time out, I think. Lots of people at windows. We could, pin it on someone else.
Oh, we're just standing here. Okay, we're gonna go in and time ad. We've got a minute, and all we have is half a flirt. Please time ad, Slappydavis. We're so slow.
Gonna go for our last flirt potentially here. It's green test. We do get it. That's a huge pickup for our pace here.
But we need 2 more missions.
We're gonna get one here. It's a contact. We're gonna go in quickly, but it's unfortunately not an amazing contact. We were watching Irish for a swap here.
We're the only conversation with real.
That's unfortunate for Slappydavis, but he doesn't know that. He has to go for it. Now I think it has to be a bug. The ambassador's not being pushed away. No, we're across the conversation. We can't bug from here. We're going to go for a fake and maybe try to dive across the conversation as a crash bug. Is that what we're going for, Slappy? 10 seconds on the clock. We might be going for it at the last second. Last second crash bug. It's going to be a lot of overtime. Nanthelas has a lot of time to figure this out. We go for it. We fail. Time runs out, and Slappydavis doesn't manage to secure the win. Nanthelas brings it back, despite the middle of that set looking so dire.
Oh, that's such a painful way to not close out the set as Slappy.
Yeah, and I think it was seen either way. I think a better opportunity would have been to try to set up near the ambassador for a standing bug. Standing bug being very good, especially if we can get to that golden range. Maybe we can go for that last second, at 1 second left standing bug, and manage to win that one. But in this case, just not enough from Slappydavis. Whew. Very nice recovery from Nanthelas. We take a draw. And,
I think Nanthelas should be very happy with that result.
Yeah, Nanthelas, at first you would think Slappy would be happy with that result, and then you would think that Nanthelas would be, because of just that there were such huge swings. I don't think, if you won one game, you were winning at least 2 more after that during that set.
Yep. Who said that SpyParty wasn't swingy?